Now the Slingshot is technically not a car, it's not a motorcycle, it's kind of in between. I took it on a ride out here to Sedona, which was absolutely beautiful out here with everybody else doing the same joyriding. And I'm gonna make two different videos on this specific Slingshot. One here on the automotive channel and one over on the power sports channel, because I think this thing can be looked at like a car and a motorcycle. It is technically an autocycle.
And what an autocycle is basically a hybrid between automobile and motorcycle. It's a three-wheeled vehicle. It has a steering wheel instead of handlebars. And a lot of the laws and regulations are kind of mixed between cars and motorcycles. But I know that Polaris has done a lot of work in terms of getting these things classified as autocycles so that you don't need a motorcycle endorsement to ride the Slingshot, and most states recognize this as such. Now, in terms of helmet laws, every state is going to be different. Arizona actually does not require helmets. I wear one because, first of all, Polaris requires it in terms of these press loaners, but I also have all of my camera gear and microphones and everything all rigged up for these kinds of setups, so I kind of prefer it. And honestly, truth be told, a lot of people that complain about helmets, I feel like, have never actually worn a helmet before, because it's really not that bad. If anything, there's actually some benefits to it as well. In the heat here, it actually keeps the sun off of your face and top of your head, and in my experience, it keeps you a little bit cooler. You do get a little sweatier, but that sweat with the air blowing through the helmet helps keep you kind of cool. And when you look at something like a Slingshot, well, this is just wide open cab, and should you get in an accident, I think the helmet is really not that bad of a thing to have at your disposal. I'm not too sure how well these little roll bar things will work in that kind of scenario, but again, the helmet thing, not a big deal for me.
This cockpit, it's awesome. I love this in terms of being a driver. I have always loved all of the Polaris Ride Command products. I've mentioned this before. On their motorcycles, you get all the data that you could possibly want. Maps, phone, music, which if we plug in to the USB, you have to have a separate headset hooked up, which I do on my helmet. I've got a Cardo. So now we'll switch this over to Apple CarPlay, and I can easily queue up my directions to get back home. We are 2.5 hours away from home, so we'll fire that up. Again, I love having all of that on here. It works out really well. Now, storage, massive glove box here behind us. We've got two giant storage compartments. I've got a sweatshirt back there. You can fit a full-size helmet and a backpack. I've got all my camera gear behind the passenger seat. And this model has heated and cooled seats. It definitely makes a bit of a difference. The heated seats definitely make a huge difference when you're riding around in the cold. You definitely will appreciate that. But just stepping back, this 10-year anniversary paint scheme, it is absolutely beautiful. What I hear a lot of people say is, oh, you should just go out and buy a Miata. I think you should actually look at the Slingshot instead. Now, this model here is the 10-year anniversary edition, and it is absolutely beautiful. And this is 204 horsepower and 150 foot-pounds of torque. And what makes this an absolute winner is the power to weight ratio. The weight of this is 1,650 pounds. And when you compare it to the weight of a Miata, you actually get 8 pounds per horsepower versus the Miata's 13 pounds per horsepower, which is pretty significant. This is a faster 0 to 60 time of 4.9 seconds. The shock setup on this thing, it is absolutely perfect. The front end stays very planted. You do have a variable electric controlled steering rack. Now, the only problem that I have with this thing, the brakes on this are not power assisted. So these Brembos, again, not power assisted. So when you want to get on the brake pedal, you have to give it all of that brake yourself. Now, the rear end here is a swing arm setup, similar to what you would get with a motorcycle, and it is also belt driven, and the experience with this thing is second to none. Look, the Miata you can get for an extra, I think, $5 grand over top of what a Slingshot is, and yes, you're getting a lot more car with a Miata, but that experience is just, it's not the same. Where the Slingshot really shines is the entry-level model for $25,000.
This is the automated manual, which I have said before, I always prefer the actual manual transmission in this vehicle just because it's a little more fun to just bang through the gears. Second gear, bang into third. I love this thing. It's just such a great feeling. This auto cycle classification gives Polaris the ability to design such a small little visceral feeling that gives you some of the same sense of, say, like a motorcycle without all of the needs for airbags and crash testing and all of those things. So again, is that a pro or a con? I find it to be a pro, but you do still get things like StabiliTrak, traction control. As a matter of fact, when I spoke to Polaris engineers about this product quite a few years ago now, they were talking about how much time and effort goes into the Bosch setup that's in these things that allows you to actually spin the tire but still keeps the vehicle from looping around. It's a really interesting way that they got this thing dialed in for a good balance of fun and also safety. So you can, however, turn off traction control down here by tapping it, or I'm sorry, by flipping it up, or if you hold it, you can turn off all traction aids and just really start looping this thing around in parking lots, which is also super fun. Not to say that I've done it with press loaners, but maybe. You're slung so low to the ground. It's such a visceral feeling. You can see the suspension working through the actual fender here, which is so cool. And what it really feels like is like a street legal go-kart. And that is the real appeal of this machine, is that you get this like really connected feeling that no other vehicle that I've ever been in can really give you. It's just so different. And in terms of cruising this thing on the highway, at first when you first get into Slingshot and you get up to around this like 80 miles an hour type speed, the thing feels really like bouncy and jumpy and lively. But you actually get to a point where you can really just kind of chill, and it does ride really, really, really nice. It's not, again, it's not a car, it's an auto cycle, and having that rear tire smack dab in the middle, it does pick up any inconsistencies in the middle of the road that you don't typically feel in a regular car, but it's really not all that bad. It does a really good job of soaking it up. There's sometimes you hit some bridge abutments that it'll kind of unsettle the car a little bit, but otherwise it really holds its own quite well. And I actually had one of these quite a while ago on loaner, and I used it as a daily driver for an entire week, that taking it back and forth to work. And honestly, it was totally fine. And it's just something that makes the mundane driving around town thing more fun. And I think a lot of people that don't understand this in the automotive sector are people who are trying too hard to want to make it a boring car like everything else on the road. This is why I love coming into Sedona. You go from the boring, just hand desert and Phoenix, and you just get these brilliant, bright, like brown red. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful place, and it only gets better. This is Sedona. Such a beautiful, beautiful place.
So that trip was just over 4 hours. Average speed was around 64 miles an hour. Might have got it up over 90. Maybe there's a section of road where that was the speed limit. I don't know. Maybe that was an error. But this thing is actually a blast to go on those long road trips. Now, another thing I was actually really surprised by, which I've actually never tested, I've had a bunch of these on the channel over the last few years, is the lighting at night. When I was on my way back from Sedona, it actually got dark, And with these being an auto cycle, part of the regulatory tap dancing that they're doing with these kinds of machines, the headlight itself, just like a motorcycle, is actually in the center. So this is like your main light, but it throws a huge beam of light across the road, way more than I ever had anticipated. And one of the things I, as a driver, love the most about this, and I just saw that Cletus McFarland now is giving away a Slingshot for one of his racing events going on, I think actually today. But this rear tire is so easy to break traction, but also to control, and it's so fun doing it.
This is one of the most fun vehicles you could possibly own.
Let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think of the Slingshot? I think it is an amazing, fun vehicle that in today's world, we need more smiles, and this thing gives you all of that and more. So with that being said, thank you guys very much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel. I will see you guys next time.